Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 557, where we're being incarcerated in a Dalek amusement park. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
This is a much cooler Dalek amusement park than that Dalek world with the big giant Dalek and the glass dome and the virtual reality stuff.
This is more authentic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No candy floss here.
Right. How you guys been? Doing anything fun this week? Watch anything this week?
I finished Secret Invasion.
So did I. Yeah.
It kind of went out with a whimper, in my opinion.
Yes, I completely agree.
It started so strong, and it was so good, and then it kind of just reverts to form and meanders.
I will say that I still have 3 episodes left, so
I sort of think it's
dance
more,
a little.
It's more like a hill. It kind of just it doesn't even like drop off at the end. It just kind of seemed like diminishing returns, and then the end of it was kind of lame. But we did watch the trailer for Loki season 2, and it looks pretty good. So
I saw that released. I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Looks good. You said you had 3 more left, Sean?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're at that halfway point.
Well, that last episode's only 38 minutes.
They've all were short.
What is up with
that?
Yeah, I think most of them were in the 40s, though, weren't they? But for the finale, I thought for sure it'd be longer.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Well, actually, after seeing it,
yeah.
Obviously, there's a reason for that.
It sort of felt like, this isn't spoiling anything, but it sort of felt like there was pieces missing. And I don't mean like obvious glaring. It's just that something felt like they had done maybe some edits into it to shorten it up.
At the end of episode 5, at the end of episode 5, going into the finale, I was like, this has been fairly good, and I've enjoyed it, and I want more exploration of what's going on here. And knowing we were going into the finale, and once we got to the finale, we just didn't get any of that stuff that I wanted, and it was just a typical finale. And I was like, okay, well, that's over. Wasted potential.
Well, we'll have to wait for Loki. Comes out in October 6th, I think it said. So we'll see.
That's
Loki.
Well, Sean, what were you going to say?
I was just going to mention that I had mentioned off mic that I had finished Tetris. And we'll echo Glenn's sentiments that it was very good and surprisingly entertaining for a movie that deals with the economics of purchasing video game rights in the 80s. But I think I really, really like Taron Egerton as an actor.
Yeah,
pretty much liked everything he's done.
Well, that's just it. He's one of those actors. The first time I saw him, I thought he was going to be one note, but boy, he's got a range.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, the man became Elton John. I'm still kind of miffed about the Academy's lack of award nominations on that one. But no, it's very good. If you get the opportunity, definitely check that one out. And then we very excited. We have our tickets for Barbenheimer, the movie event of the year. We're going tomorrow. Double feature.
I think at this point, I'm going to wait till they're on streaming. Maybe I'll watch them both the same day.
The way things have been going, you may not have too long to wait.
No, that's probably true.
That's true.
Although Barbie was number 1 at the box office again this week.
And Oppenheimer was number 2 again.
Yeah, so. Completely trounced whatever the Disney offering that came out. What was it?
Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion, yeah. Which is too bad because it looks like an improvement over that 1990s one.
I say we just watched the Eddie Murphy one this week as part of our let's watch a whole bunch of Disney movies to get ready to go to Disney World. And I had never actually seen it. And Mel was like, I'll talk to you after. I was like, okay. And then it ended and she goes, well, and I was like, I didn't hate it, but I don't know that I really liked it. It was just kind of there.
It's not horrible, but I think
it's very bland.
They missed the mark with Eddie Murphy because he was in that kind of zone where I think he wanted to do more serious roles, but then it really kind of feels like he's trying too hard. And so it didn't quite work. So. Didn't quite work.
Well, you're probably just better off watching the Muppet version.
Yeah, I like that one. It's fun. Holly and I watched the first 2 episodes of Good Omens season 2, which is really off to a great start. We're really enjoying it. So and no idea where this one's going because the first one was based on the book, which I had read. This one, I have no idea where we're going. Although there was I think the first episode had a piece that was in that I think they lifted from the book that wasn't used in the first one. But beyond that, it's been all brand new stuff. And it feels like we're getting a lot more of Tennant and
Sheen.
Yes, thank you, Sheen.
That apparently was the plan from the get-go.
Yeah.
So.
That's the whole reason Good Omens as a story was good and enjoyable, but they stole the show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
In the first season. So if you're going to do it, you have to have more of those
quite wisely, Neil Gaiman and the showrunners went, this is what works.
And
there's 3 seasons of Stage that prove that works.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want to spoil this. I mean, it's a actor that shows up that I was like, oh, surprising, surprising, but not so surprising, I suppose. But I don't know whether I want to say. I want to know if you guys should. I should just let you guys watch it and you guys be surprised by it because I was.
I think I heard that.
Oh, so you probably know then.
I think I know.
Yeah.
I think I might be in the know. Is anybody watching that 1982 Greatest Geek Year Ever?
I watched the first one and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right up my alley, though.
It's a 4-part documentary series on CW, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But it's just kind of exploring how 1982 was, such a gargantuan year for stuff that has become very steeped in geek culture, because it was the summer that E.T. and Poltergeist and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Blade Runner and The Thing, and I mean just on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I when I was watching, I couldn't believe it was movie after movie after movie after movie, and I was like, yeah, I guess all these did come out that year.
So that's the first one is Summer of Spielberg, which covers E.T. and Poltergeist, and it's pretty wonderful. And I'm about halfway through episode 2 now. They just got done talking about Wrath of Khan. So
wasn't Tron in that year too?
Tron was that year. One of the Rambos.
Yeah, that's the only one I've watched so far. So I've got the rest of the series to go. But anything else?
We finished The Rookie season 5. What are we up to now?
You're behind.
Well, we kind of spread that one out, and we're actually doing the alternating between The Rookie and The Rookie Feds. So we still have the finale of Rookie Feds to watch. But holy crap! What an ending for The Rookie. Oof.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If it's been 5 years, he's not a rookie anymore.
No more.
Yeah, they kind of go into that.
Training other people. So.
Other rookies, huh?
Other
rookies come on the show.
Okay.
He's still the rookie training officer of the group. But.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
Well, should we move on to some news? Oh, we don't have any news.
Let's not, because we don't have any.
I forgot. I literally was thinking, okay, next section, news. Well, no news. That's probably
just in. Doctor Who is still not on.
That's probably good because we've got a lot of reviews to tackle this week. So we're going to start off by reviewing the most recent Once and Future, A Genius for War, featuring Sylvester McCoy in the role this time.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Once and Future, A Genius for War.
This is Davros, calling Gallifrey. Repeat, This is Davros, calling Gallifrey.
The General. I have been appointed to conduct your briefing.
I was in the middle of something, you know. But no, pluck me out of time, drag me halfway across the universe without so much as a by your leave.
We wouldn't use the time scoop to bring you here unless your presence was absolutely unavoidable.
The Dalek Emperor has accused me of treason.
I trust Davros about as far as I could throw him.
Instead, I have been incarcerated on Falcus, the first moon of Scardo.
He must be desperate.
Liberate me from captivity, and I will help you defeat the Daleks.
You think it's a trap?
I wish to be rescued by the Time Lord known as the Doctor.
So, now I know why I'm here. To save Davros. Well, let's get going, shall we?
Dalek units to disembark and secure Focus Moon.
The Matrix has predicted the Time War can only end with mutual extinction. You can appreciate that we are eager to avoid that outcome.
The Matrix can be wrong.
The Matrix predicted the war.
The TARDIS passed through a temporal breach.
I offer you the means to end the Time War. I offer you victory.
Big finish for the love of stories.
Your appearance corresponds with the Time Lord known as the Doctor. You are the enemy of the Daleks.
It's the first line on my CV. Current employment. The oncoming storm.
In the midst of the Time War, the Time Lords have received a communication from Falcus, the prison moon of Skaro. Its sole inmate, Davros, wishes to make them an offer. He will help them win the Time War, but only if the Doctor comes to his rescue.
You gotta cut that out, man. You completely clip out your mic. It sounds like you're having like an aneurysm or something.
Or at the very worst, Skype is just not cooperating.
Right. Well.
A very strong bump.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah.
Well, then you should go first, Sean.
What wasn't to like about this one? If the entire premise with these things, I've been a little on the because of the premise.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor's DNA is regressing and he's degenerating. And it seemed like a gimmicky excuse to throw a multi-Doctor anniversary celebration. And this one finally takes that and does something with it that's integral to the plot of this story. And I didn't see it coming until it happened.
Yeah,
it was so cool.
It does become finally part of the plot. Although not a huge part, but a necessary part.
It becomes the resolution of the plot.
Yeah. A very nifty resolution to it. So of course Davros is Davros, and I love Terry Malloy, and I love the conversational Davros so much more than the screaming egomaniacal Davros, which I think we got a lot of conversational Davros in this one, which was great.
Yeah.
And the idea of this, it's a fully constructed moon. It's artificial. It's in orbit. It looks like a Dalek because it's got sensor spheres all over it.
It looks like a Dalek because
it is a Dalek.
And then to find out that, at the center of the planet, there's a giant brain computer that's controlling it. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool.
Even before that, just the idea that the Daleks would put Davros in this prison where he's getting to still utilize his faculties isn't just wasting away or putting them into hibernation, but they're kind of distracting him with these Khalid clones that he can lead to a fake war with the Thals is a pretty clever idea. Seems like a lot of wasted resources, but if there's one thing Daleks aren't limited on is resources.
Yeah.
Well, and that was another thing. When we first get to the moon and the doctor lands and they start wandering around, and all of a sudden Section 7's under attack and there's a bombing and the Khalids and the Thals are involved. You're like, what? What are we doing? Are they somehow, did he get back? Are we doing Genesis again in a different way? And then very quickly into it, they reveal, oh no, this is all just a simulation to
all clones.
Keep them busy because they're too busy doing this and they can't escape. It's like, oh, that's actually kind of genius. And so all of the little reveals, the fact that the Thals are all clones.
The Daleks are clones. Yeah, sorry.
The Khalids are clones.
Khalids, there you go, yeah.
And that, Davros is there and that Davros is willing to give the Time Lords, this grand thing that's going to destroy him. Okay, what are you willing to give us? Well, what if we spliced Dalek and Time Lord DNA together? And the general goes, the hybrid. And oh man, I got goosebumps. It was like, oh, we went back to that?
Well, it's because now we know why Davros is familiar with the hybrid by the time we get to that Capaldi episode.
What a genius. Yeah, more of this. I love it when they fill in little holes. And that was kind of a big hole, so it was nice to have a Davros-shaped puzzle piece to fit into that hole. Mm. And then the further reveal that, of course, I mean, it's not really a reveal, it's Davros. Of course he's playing the Time Lords, and he's only doing this so that the Daleks will come back and rescue him and see how valuable he is. But, of course, it's Davros, so that doesn't go as planned. And then the next big reveal that, and he says, we're going to do this, and Doctor, it has to be you. And the Doctor agrees. It's like, okay, what's he up to? Because, it's 7. He's always 7 steps ahead of everybody.
And by this point, I had forgotten the degeneration aspect of everything because it hadn't come up again.
Yep. And Becklin had even made that one comment about how, oh, you're stabilized. Oh, yeah, fighting my oldest foes must have focused the brain.
Yeah.
But then, so he allows Davros to take his genetic material and implant it into this hybrid, and it doesn't work, and it kills the thing. And I was like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, because I'm degenerating. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather at the moment that reveal happened because it was so well set up and executed, and I just didn't see it. And then to further go on and do it to the planet. Because it's a Dalek brain. It's like, oh, this is so awesome.
Well, and I like the fact that they also make the point to remind us that Davros won't try that again because he sees it as a failed experiment, or a failed experiment, but he's unaware
without knowing why.
Yeah, he's unaware that the Doctor's degenerating now. So that was kind of cool.
And so it just. And I don't know why. I can't quite make it fit, but something in my brain was tickling away that the idea of this artificial moon of Skaro could have been a way to replace or explain how Skaro came back after it was destroyed by the hand of Omega. And I couldn't quite get there, but it felt like there may be a link there that I'm just not seeing. Maybe not, but it just felt like my brain went, I'm going to file that away because I think that's important for later.
Yeah, they may not need to have to, because I think maybe there is some expanded material out there that has dealt with that. So maybe they felt like they don't need to yet.
But everybody had moments of greatness. Everybody had something to do. The general was fantastic.
Oh, Tin Bones is so good.
And his
especially his escape. That was terrific. Get him close to the TARDIS so that the guns don't work, and then trigger the default that sends the TARDIS to materialize around the closest Time Lord. Very cool.
The HADS, hostile displacement.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just so many little things that worked in this that overall as a whole, it was like, this was great.
I think I
thoroughly enjoyed it.
I think I would echo everything you've said about it for the most part. The only little thing that I had a problem with, and it's really kind of minor, is that Davros is getting the Time Lords to rescue him, only to lead the Daleks to capture him. That seemed unnecessary.
It's a little overly convoluted.
Right, because it's said later in the audio that he did it to give the Daleks a chance to basically get in on his plan. But didn't his plan ultimately mean that there was going to be like a new quote-unquote time species that was going to replace both sides anyway? So he didn't need the Daleks at that point because he was already going to use his own DNA. All he needed was to trick the Doctor to get his, And he could have just done that when the doctor was there the first time.
Well,
so big reveal that he had this all planned out and that he was already utilizing this facility. I mean, he had the doctor there already once. I just think he could have just done it then, but I don't know.
I got the impression that, from what I remember of it also, it seemed like he didn't confirm the fact that he had it fully planned out and that he was needing the Daleks to come rescue him again to get him back to the station. That he was just taking advantage of the situation to try to sell it to them.
Yeah.
And then go back. Not so much that he had planned for them to do that.
Yeah,
but just saw an opportunity to use it.
But
the book felt like it wasn't part of his full master plan. It was just getting the Doctor and the Time Lords to agree to doing this sort of experiment.
Which it makes sense. But the problem that I have is even if he says, okay, well, now I'll use this to my benefit to try to get the Daleks to, agree to this. But he didn't need the Daleks to agree with it because ultimately the plan was to create this new species. So the Daleks were going to be out of the picture anyway. He already had the DNA. So it just seems strange for him to go there.
The line is that it's the Doctor who is assuming, this was all part of Davros's plan. It's another trap.
Well, it was, though.
And
Davros admits it.
But I think the reason for that is if he ambushes the Doctor right off the bat or tricks him or however he gets the DNA to create this thing, they're on Falcus. He is essentially still a prisoner of Falcus. That yes, he has control of the computer. Yes, he has control of the Khalids, but he's essentially still a prisoner of the Daleks.
No, he's not. No, he's not, because Davros already had control of the clone Khalids. That's revealed later. These guys were still on his side. So they really weren't keeping him prisoner. So all he had to do was capture the Doctor. And we know that there was the induction field that he could have turned on at any time so that the Daleks could not get through, because that's what he does. Now, the induction field is turned on afterwards and the Daleks are already in, so they can't get out. But he had control over all that. So that's my point, that when the Doctor comes, you could trick the Doctor, say, come rescue me. And then when the Doctor gets there, just employ your fallback plan then, because you've got him there. You can extract his DNA and you don't have to go through this runaround. That was my only problem, is it felt a little bit convoluted. I think, ultimately they had to tell a story and they had to get the Daleks involved and they had to, set up the exhibition for it. But it just, once we revealed that final plan, I was like, this could have been the first plan and then you'd have just been done with it. But
maybe he thought he needed the double feint. Otherwise the Doctor would have seen through it as a trap.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because
he actually gets allowed to be taken off Valcor, then the defenses are down on the Doctor's end.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. He didn't need to do. He didn't
captured him and stole.
Yeah, he could have just captured him and taken it from him. He had control of the Khalig drones or clones. So he could have just had them capture the Doctor and then extract the DNA that way. I don't know. That just was a little weak. And I've said it wasn't a big deal, but now I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it probably was. But. But there's so far there's nothing you've said that convinces me that it didn't have to go that way, other than the fact that it's a contrivance for the story.
This much is true.
But let me step back and say again, I agree with everything you said. Performances are terrific. I love Davros as the conversationalist and talking about rationalizing through a plan instead of the screaming maniacal maniac that he sometimes is portrayed as. Yeah, I love that. I loved Sylvester McCoy in this. I love the General. It was excellent. Veclin seemed kind of just there. She did fine, but she just seemed kind of there. I like, though, that she's sort of there because she just kind of has to be, so that she's keeping his
protect him.
Well, she's as much keeping an eye on the Doctor as she is protecting him too. So
yeah,
that's clever. And they explain the fact that his memory's messed up because of that. So even if we've kind of talked off mic that now that they've announced that the 10th Doctor is in one of these, it kind of we we said, I think a few weeks back, that we kind of suspected that this was happening at least linearly during the Time Lord. And I presume that it's probably he's in his 8th incarnation when this degeneration thing started happening. But we'll have to see how that plays out now that apparently the 10th Doctor is going to be involved in this storyline.
This story really lends to that idea too, because it's a Time War and they're conscripting him without his agreeance, which is much more in line with the 8th Doctor as it would have been for the War Doctor.
The only thing
War Doctor probably would have been they probably wouldn't have had to use a time scoop to get the War Doctor to come help with this sort of situation.
So that's what I was going to say, is they use the time scoops, which kind of made me think, well, if you're using the time scoop, then maybe this isn't as close to the Time War as we thought. On the other hand, they do use that throwaway line of his memory scrambled because of that, and so that it works out either way. But
what's also kind of strange is from the General and Beckland's perspective, this is on the heels of Restoration of the Daleks, where Davros was thrown in prison, which was an 8th Doctor story, so that makes sense also.
That's true, yeah.
And the name of the series is Once and Future. So they may throw us for a loop with that one.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But I'll echo again, Sean, what you said about using and you both talked about it, using the actual degeneration as part of the story, finally. What a great reveal.
Just so good. And there were Daleks. So that's an added
Oh, yeah.
I almost wish there was more of it. Like, I could have gone for a full 4-part story with this.
Yeah,
there was so much between Davros and the General and Davros and the Doctor. There was so much of that great conversational stuff, and even just the exploration into the hybrid more. It got me really excited, and I was like, "It's over already? No, give me more of this."
Yeah, when they were wrapping up and things were blowing up, and Davros escapes, and everything, I was like, "Oh wait, no, you're like done. No, you can't be done.
This should have been a full Time War box set."
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the we've known because of the first ones that these were kind of shorter stories, but this one really felt short, and I think it's because it's so good and exciting through the whole thing. So,
if I have a complaint, it's the very, very ending where Davros lands on Skaro, and then can't levitate and is immediately set upon by whatever is in the. It's like, I don't know that we needed that. I mean, we already know Davros comes back multiple times. Mm-hmm. He cheats death every single time. You could have just let him go.
Yeah.
Because we know he'd be back. You don't have to set him up to die thinking that, oh, maybe they got him this time. No, they didn't.
Yeah, I didn't even think he was going to die there.
No giant clam is going to take him out. Come on. Harry Sullivan, maybe, but Davros, no.
I just assumed they were setting up the next thing that Big Finish was going to do with Davros.
I suppose that's a possibility.
Well, that's what I wondered too, is if they were placing him somewhere, and maybe they placing him somewhere he needs to be for a story that's already been told that's after this too.
That's possible. Or setting him. I'm always waiting for them to set him up for Journey's End.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I think this did.
This wasn't
it's not it, but I think this was another piece of that, because in Journey's End, when he pulls his tunic open and he's showing that he's used his own flesh to recreate these Daleks, is like this is where the genesis of that idea came from, I think.
Yeah, maybe so.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
He's like, well, if I can't make the Daleks listen to me, screw it. I'll create my own Daleks again.
We are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations and publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulke, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
Well, should we move on to our next few Doomsday? We're getting ready to do hours 6 through 7 and 8 through 9. So it'll be, this is Titan's contribution to the Doomsday story. And it's called, we'll start with A Doctor in the House, Part 1.
Using her Vortex manipulator, she'll do anything to find a tempestuous time traveler, including cavorting with the maleficent Missy. Every hour a new adventure, every hour closer to death. Coincidence finds Doom at yet another ball, only this time she's looking for answers as well as her target. But a priceless and dangerous treasure poses her another complication in her final day.
These were good.
Yeah, I enjoyed them, mostly because of Missy.
Yeah.
I think, and I think we talked about this off mic. We certainly wouldn't have probably said anything about this on mic, or maybe I kind of alluded to it. But the thing that I thought was interesting is that this story, we're at another ball, which they obviously acknowledged that in that synopsis you were reading there. But she's back at another ball, and then she ends up back at Stormcage again later. And I think, okay, did somebody get their lines crossed and Titan thought that they were doing this and the, because James Goss's story, which kicks everything off, when when we find out that she's dying, she's at a ball. And then this time she's decided, I guess, just to do away with the, digital dress or the hologram dress, because this was just her with a cape over her.
It's a masquerade ball.
Yeah, well, so was the last one. So, well, yeah, no, the last one.
Assassinations take places at balls.
Yeah, the last one was. But then she ends up in Stormcage, and that very first panel, or very first story in the Doctor Who magazine ones that we read, which is super truncated, is in Stormcage as well. So it makes me wonder if somebody got their blinds crossed when they were pitching these story ideas, and they just went, okay, we'll just make it work.
Well, and it definitely feels, it's obviously also the Stormcage aspect is a sequel to Missy's storyline that they did for her. So it makes sense that Titan would want to try to weave those two things together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Right down to the fact that the head guy, thanks her again for that whole thing before, but wasn't sure that she really needed to take the master off world. But
nice callback to one of our favorite stories.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like the setup for this one though, where she's trying to find her target, and she suspects that well, I think who is it engages them first? Was it Missy that engaged them first? I think it was. And then
Missy engages the cat people.
Yes, right. That's what I meant. And then Doom ends up going into the room when they're actually breaking in and trying to steal whatever that jewel or gem or whatever it is was. That, I certainly, if they knew it was world ending, would they still have stole it? Yeah, probably. But
the perpetual topaz.
Yeah,
that was why they were stealing it, wasn't it?
Well, because it was for somebody else, though, wasn't it? It wasn't for them.
I guess I assumed that's
somebody, but
yeah, but I guess that's why I figured somebody wanted it was because it was world.
Oh no, absolutely. But my point was, would they have, if they knew it was world ending, would they have stole it? But I think maybe they even say it's just a job, or at least in so many words, they don't really care. But
can we talk about the absolute mad genius of making cat burglars?
I thought it was a bit.
Their names.
I thought it was a bit. I don't know, contrite.
No, it's an idea so ludicrous. Only Doctor Who could pull it off.
Yeah,
it's
only Doctor Who could pull it off in a comic.
It's just the right.
It wouldn't work on television.
Because Catwoman in Batman comics, she didn't start out as a cat burglar either. So. Oh wait, she did.
She wasn't a literal cat.
Well, I know, but
that's the difference.
I think you're giving it too much credit. But then we end up at Stormcage, in which she's got her next target. And I thought this went really well too, because she comes in. I mean, I think I expected a different character, especially with the setup from Suze Kempner and those that video that we watched. And I think that maybe Suze is going to play it when we actually get her portrayal of Doom. I think that she's going to play it maybe a little looser and funnier, but I really kind of, by that video, kind of thought maybe she was going to be an incompetent assassin, but she's really clever and really on the ball. And I really kind of like that about her. It's a different character than I expected going in. And so she's
all the promotional stuff has called her the universe's best assassin.
Right. But
which I think is a downgrade for Brian, but
well, that's true. Although I something that I was watching, one of the other Doctor Who content YouTubers was talking about this particular series, and he said he had pointed out that Brian the Ood was in the same organization, but in Time Lord Victorious, it's revealed that Brian killed all the rest of the assassins in the group. So I don't know if this is before or after that, because we're actually getting Brian the Ood in one of the stories later down the line. So I guess we'll see.
Now I know how she's dying.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Maybe maybe he's the reason. Oh, that would be kind of a neat little turnaround callback.
I agree with you, Glenn. I think this is the first. This is the Doom that I think I wanted and didn't quite get in the first couple of setup stories.
Mm-hmm.
And now I buy it. Now I believe that she is strong and competent and an assassin and not just kind of flitting her way through things looking for help. So I appreciate that characterization in these so far. And can we? I have to talk for a moment about the absurdity that I love with Missy adding the 10 3/4 tag to her hat as the Mad Hatter.
Well, for her masquerade.
Followed by the fact that she has a sonic fork.
Yeah.
Followed by the panel when Doom comes back to Stormcage and the Master is watching TV, screaming at you, "Pitiful canine, your mental capacity should far exceed that of any bird." And there's an anvil on the screen.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute. Like I had to read it, and then I had to reread it, and then I had to look at the picture, and then I had to reread it. And then it finally clicked what he was watching.
Oh, you didn't pick up that it was the Coyote and Roadrunner right away?
Not until I really had to struggle to do the math on that one. But once I did get it, I laughed pretty hard. Because of course he would.
I do find it interesting, though, that all the other references to the Master enjoying kids shows, the kids shows are typically not BBC, but UK based. And this is presumably written by an American, and they used an American kids show for this. So I didn't know if that was telling or if that was just like, maybe a clever nod to maybe take it off continent for for this particular story. I don't know.
Well, now we have to go full circle, and the next time we see the Master in a prison watching TV, it has to be Wurzel Gumridge.
Yeah.
He has to deliver a line, something about, "You seem familiar, Scarecrow." James Goss, get on that.
That's kind of clever. Keith, you haven't said much.
Well, I enjoyed all of this, but in the back of my mind, I have to wonder how essential Missy is to the overall story of this. It seems like she's just there to kind of be a gimmick and to chase Doom, and doesn't really do much or affect the overall story at all.
No, she certainly doesn't affect the overall story. In fact, she
adds a bunch of humor and, joy to the story, but other than that, it's kind of...
And she's always right just a step behind Doom as well. And so, yeah, I think that's ultimately what she's there for, is to be there and say Missy-isms and be clever and just kind of be that, maybe even levity to. I mean, we're following an assassin that has jobs, and they've been very clever about not having to make her be as ruthless as she potentially could be. And all of her hits so far have been unsympathetic. yeah, exactly. Unsympathetic targets. So, so far, and sometimes not even that. She has to kill an idea, or she has to kill, her target is a Cyberwoman. So yeah, so I kind of wonder if maybe Missy is there to be, hey, Doom can't isn't all that bad, because remember, here's Missy.
Look, here's somebody worse, but not acting worse is the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but she
Jodie has such a grasp on Missy's voice that it makes you enjoy it, and you don't realize it until the end that it's like, well, why was Missy even there?
Yeah.
Other than to have some fun. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, and I think what kind of lends to this and yet also detracts from it is the fact that this is the Missy during her trying to be redemptive.
The her being Doctor Who.
Yeah, where she's not killing any people. She's not being as viciously malicious as she could be. So she's been reduced pretty much to just verbal barbs. And it's wonderful because they have the voice of Missy down so well that she sounds like Michelle Gomez on the comic page. Mm-hmm. But it's detrimental to Missy's character in a way, because the real Missy would have barbecued Doom long before now. She would have liquidated her for being insolent. Well, maybe would have been impressed enough with her panache that she would have offered her a companion gig, but probably would have just liquidated her. And so the fact that she can't, because she's hamstrung by what she has promised the doctor, that she's going to be good, I think it both works for it and against it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because we don't really get Missy. We get the attempted revision of Missy.
So it was also,
and I appreciated that when she got her own story, but now it's kind of like, well, if you want it to be the Doctor, if you want somebody to be there as a Doctor, just have the wrong incarnation of the Doctor be there, because we've already done that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it can just actually be the Doctor interacting with Doom when it's not the right Doctor that she needs.
Well, and that's just it. I think they're trying hard, or maybe not so hard, to not have her interact with the Doctor too much, because she's trying to track down the Doctor. Oh, but not this incarnation of the Doctor, her incarnation of the Doctor. And so if you keep running into the Doctor, it's like, well, any one of these Doctors could have helped. But I think maybe by injecting Missy here, you keep the 12th Doctor, and in the Unicorn story, we kept the 3rd Doctor, just out of reach. And so I think that's maybe what they're trying to do with some of these stories. So in that case, you put somebody in there like Missy that, is somebody to bounce off of, but not necessarily have much to do with the plot overall. I think the other thing that was pointed out to me recently, and this is kind of pedantic, and I'm not even sure it works all that well, but twice now we've had Missy portraying herself as the Doctor, obviously in this redemption series, but somebody pointed out that in the story, the Cyberman story, it seems like from the setup to that this is the first time that she's come out of the vault. So you don't get the impression that she's had any of these sort of trial run, expectations before, but that it's all pretty brand new that she's doing this. Like, that's her first test. And you know what I mean? When she shows up on the Mondosian ship. So it almost kind of doesn't let these comics that we've done twice now with Missy work, but there have been worse. There's been worse jiggery pokery, I guess, in trying to get things to stretch around timelines in the past. But I thought it was interesting that it maybe does fly in the face of that a little bit.
I did appreciate the line right after seeing the Master in his cage when Missy walks off. Whoops. And she says, ugh, far too many time travelers tracking their Artron energy absolutely everywhere. And I kind of like the idea that there are certain areas of the cosmos that you just kind of give up on. You know, if you were a bounty hunter or an assassin, and then you track your quarry, and of course they go to ground. Well, how do they do that? Well, they would go to Earth, or they would go to Stormcage, or they would go to somewhere where time travelers hang out. And then the person chasing them is just like, ugh.
Hi, I'm Rupert Booth.
I am known as Paul Ferry.
And my name is Barry Williams. Together, we host Time Ram.
Time Ram's a cruel mistress.
It's a random number generator.
That also.
We roll a number from 1 to 13, and that's our doctor. Then 1 to 300 for the story, and then we ram them together. Even if it doesn't make sense.
Cruel, I tell you.
Time Ram. Putting the wrong doctors in the wrong stories, so you don't have to.
You're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
Well, should we move on and tackle part 2 to this story, which is also called A Doctor in the House, Part 2.
I don't have a separate synopsis for this.
No, that's fine. I think that kind of set both of them up. I think this one's equally as good. It gets them to another place. She's looking for her next mark, essentially, because we're in different hours here. Taking her to this the one thing that I had a problem with is sometimes I feel like writers tend to pander to fandom. And by that, I mean, they do things like this where, you know, oh, I'm a cosplayer. I like conventions. Oh, look, there are a bunch of cosplayers at this convention in this book that I'm reading about. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's sure. It's quasi-meta clever, but on the other hand, I'm kind of...
How many times has it been done?
Exactly. It kind of feels redundant. So I was a little upset with the setting for this one, but I think the dialogue between Doom and Missy in this one is a lot better. I think it's crafted a little better and almost a little more fun, because Missy is obviously just behind her in the first part of this story. And so there's not a lot of interaction, but the interaction you get, I think they play off of each other a lot better, because, you know, Missy's now kind of involving herself in trying to involve herself in what Doom's doing.
I don't fully understand her hit in this one.
I don't think I've understood any of her hits in any of them. It's just, this person has to die. Okay, she kills them. You know. Maybe they'll surprise me. We'll get to the end and find out they were all connected after all. But
well, wasn't this gal was something about she was going to destroy all these books or something that were in this?
Yeah, she was going to destroy the books, which, you know, is we then lose our history.
Right,
and
all of history.
I get the message, but it was like, okay.
Yeah. I think the second half of this is a little better when she ends up on the planet with the guy who's like the last of his species, and he's going to take everything with him as he goes.
I love the whoever's line it is of pointing out, well, no one's going to remember you if they're on fire.
Yeah, right.
Which makes sense.
There were so many good lines throughout this.
Yeah.
When she at first says, you know, well, where better to find the doctor than at a convention full of his deep love and abiding affection for this planet? And Missy responds with, oh, you know, a darkened alleyway, a quarry.
Yeah, a lot of meta references. Yeah, I did kind of chuckle at that.
Well, and the nice thing about the second part with the guy is the fact that the perpetual topaz comes back into play.
Yeah,
and they kind of tie up that.
Well, this is who they were getting the thing for.
Yeah, it must have been.
I think what I like about this best about this is Missy's put in a situation where she has to stop this as the doctor. And so she has this whole conversation with herself about, well, what to do. See, no, there's no blood allowed. Maiming probably still counts as violent. So I should leave the knives out in time. And she's got all these great, things she could do as Missy, but that wouldn't be what the doctor would do. So she's going through this whole, not even an inner monologue, an outer monologue about what she could do. And then the guy just falls over dead. And we find out that, well, it's because Doom poisoned his tea. And then she says, which I thought was really cool, Missy says, well, why didn't you poison my tea? And she says, you aren't the job. And then she leaves. She says, you aren't the job yet. And then she leaves. And I was like, wow, that was really a kind of a cool ending to this.
It really proves how competent Doom is and makes me like Doom more as a character.
Well, it's more to that exhibition for Missy, too, because it really is within her character to go through all of those different things in her head and then realize, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Again, makes her ineffective in this story, but at least she's there for some really great dialogue.
Yeah, that's true. And it was really this ending that made me go, well, she was not needed in this, but other than for enjoyment and for fun.
Well, she was a distraction too, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was very much a matter of let's take somebody who we know is, kind of a badass and use them as a foil for our new character to prove that our new character is, in fact, also a badass, even if it comes at the expense of the original. Yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, nothing happened. We didn't advance the story any. We crossed off a couple more. Nope, it's not that doctor. So we're still right back to where we got, at the beginning. So that I'm sensing a pattern. Each installment is going to be, there's going to be a murder and a previous companion / problem of the doctors that Doom's going to interact with until we get to the end and they kind of reveal what's up. But at least the ride has been enjoyable thus far. So I'm willing to let them spin their wheels a little bit longer.
I don't think there's been a lot of substance, heavy substance to this, but it's been kind of fun. So far, I'm hoping that some of the stories get a little meatier and get a little bit more, involved. But so far, I've enjoyed it. Well, maybe
there better be a lot more meat in that book.
Maybe up until our next. Maybe up until our next.
Better not be all fluff.
Maybe until our next installment, which also released this week. In fact, this weekend we just came off the event. And I'm still going to call it I Am the Doctor because it's still being referred to that, even though in the game it's nowhere to be found. That really clever name. But Doomsday Part 1 released from Doctor Who Lost in Time, which is the mobile game by Eastside Games. And I'm pretty sure you don't have a synopsis for this one.
I do.
Oh, well, go ahead.
A haven for cybernetic life forms is under attack, and only the Doctor and K9 can stop it, with some help from Doom.
I'm going to be the first. I'm going to come out of the gate admitting this. I know that Chameleon's in this story. I know Chameleon's in this story from the get-go because there was a little tease before it dropped, and then he's like the picture when you open the event, very first thing. And
he's the character you can earn. That's the main thing.
Yes, and I didn't figure that the doc. Even while she's talking to him, I did not figure out that the Doctor was actually Chameleon until the reveal. Well, until Doom started piecing it together, and I thought, how come I didn't figure that out? I feel really stupid for such a weak. It's not a weak story. It was a fine story. I mean, it was an okay story,
short and small.
Yeah, but for such a thin story, let's put it that way. For such a thin story, I felt kind of goofy that I didn't figure that out right away.
I didn't figure it out right away either, but that I think is mostly because previous events in this game, the characters and the images of the characters that you see for the events usually have had nothing to do with the story. So, like last weekend, I unlocked Perry. And it had nothing to do with Perry in the entire story. Yeah. So the fact that it was Chameleon I didn't bat an eye at it because, that's just another character, right? They got, so they're going to include them in this game because they can. And it's a cool classic Doctor reference to include. I didn't expect for the Doctor to be actually Chameleon.
And that's my reason too. Forget everything I said. That's my reason.
I guess I didn't give the game stories enough credit.
Well, in fairness, even the here's the reason this companion is with this companion in this place in game have been
doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's been fly on the wall loose.
And they play very fast and loose with the canon with the whole game.
It's a game, so automatically it gets put into this section of canon. You know what I mean? I also did not see the reveal coming until it was there. But I will also freely admit that unlike the rest of you, I had to read on the... I was given the benefit of reading just the story bits and not suffering through the gameplay because I'm sorry, East End, I've already given up on your mobile game. I was not enjoying my time spent in the Doctor Who world there. So
yeah, it's not for everyone. And in fact, there's a lot of people that have been kind of bailing on it, which is sad because I enjoy it, but I enjoy it as a slow-paced leisure game that I can kind of do. There's been things that have been frustrating that's made me mad. There are things about the game that we could go really into that, maybe we should someday revisit the game and talk about some of the flaws in it, but this isn't where that is. So,
dealing with and to the same extent, they have gone lately into some distance to fixing my issues with the game.
Some of them,
a lot less complaints lately than I have leading up to whatever their update was 2 times ago when they added new episodes. Yeah. Since that point, I've not really had any issues with the game.
And they haven't fixed my double punch glitch yet, so I'm still happy.
Well, see, we can't complain too loud.
That's right.
Not so loud.
Yeah. It's been all over the place now. I'm surprised they haven't fixed it yet.
But, having said that, because I was not exposed to the in-game artwork that spoils the fact that Chameleon is part of this chapter, when it did happen, it was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And it was a nice little.
Well, you have an even better excuse.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I struggled with this, and this is typical of the past gameplay, it is very much redundant on its scenes, and it's very much not a lot. I mean, you don't get any action in this game. Every once in a while, you'll get a cutaway of the TARDIS dematerializing. You'll get a cutaway of another scene, or characters will change the other direction. But there's not a lot of visually. There's not a lot of change. But I really feel like they phoned that part in on this one because there's virtually nothing but the 2 scenes. You've got the scenes with, the Dr. K9 or Chameleon K9, and then you've got the scenes with Doom, and it's not until it's revealed to us later because neither Keith nor I got this scene. When Doom actually leaves at the end, do we see a different location? And so I was really kind of disappointed that every time I came back to the story, I was seeing the exact same scenes with just one change, which was Chameleon instead of the Doctor. So I that was one of my biggest complaints with it. If they had just moved away to a different scene once or twice through this whole thing, I probably wouldn't have been as bothered by it. But it really kind of felt lazy that they just kept to those 2 shots.
Yeah, and the fact that there was not really a lot of context for what was really happening. Had I known this synopsis going into it, it probably would have also made a little sense initially.
Well, I kind of needed somebody to explain to me what the heck was going on because I understood that K9 was wanting help with these pirates that were coming to steal parts from these droids because now only droids live on this planet. I did like the idea that Doom picked up on the concept that when you see a only droid planet, you kind of sort of assume that maybe the droids maybe the robots took over. But these pirates are coming to scavenge these parts from these robots from this robot planet. But I don't know why. I mean, they kind of say why, and then because they're the Scarlet something, she painted stuff. I didn't understand that. I got really lost in the middle of this.
They were the Scarlet Scavengers.
Yeah.
So she figured, I'm going to paint some of these scrap metal pieces red.
Right.
So that they will have a theme for their ships.
Oh,
that will appeal to them. That was the whole.
Well, that's just dumb.
And that's how she resolved it.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
That's the problem.
They stole the junk instead of the robots.
I had no idea what the resolution was until you just said that. So
she pulled a Doc Brown. She stole the plutonium and gave them a shoddy pinball casing full of used parts. That was it.
And not even an assassination.
Yeah, so. I'll tell you. As somebody that plays this game, it was fun to have this cutaway for sure, because as Keith was saying, there's a lot of times that you're on especially these side quests where, which was one of the other things that annoyed me about this was we got Chameleon, great, with new card, but we didn't get Doom, and this was Doom's event. So I'm hoping
assuming we're going to get it in the next one.
I'm hoping because there's another part coming, that we'll get her with that one. But I was a little disappointed that she wasn't one of the keep characters.
Well, and the other nice thing about this event was the fact that it made me actually stop and pay attention to the story again, because now that I'm done with the episodes, all the events I've gone through several times at this point.
Yeah, and they're just redundant.
I've read the stories, and so it actually made me pause, and it's something new and fresh for the game to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Other than just new characters to unlock.
I kind of hope they'll do that a little more. They'll realize that it's, of course, maybe there's a lot going on when you're trying to put, I mean, clearly they having to work hard on episodes because we keep running out of episodes.
Right.
So they're you could tell they must be focused on that. So that's why we continue to get the redundancy of the events. But this, I'm with you. It was kind of nice to break away and actually get something different.
And I want to say that the last weekend's events where the Doctor is recounting his past regenerations, that was only the second time I've had that one. So they are doing new events occasionally.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this Doomsday one will show back up again too.
Was that the one with the surgeon who was disguised?
Yeah, the medic. Yeah, the
medic. Yeah. For anybody that hasn't played that one, I won't spoil who it is.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that one had so many cutscenes and so much plot to it that, well, I guess not really, but there was seemed like there's a lot more to that than there was to this. And I am a little disappointed that there wasn't more to this story and more going on there.
Well, that one felt like there was more to it because it was kind of almost a nice little nostalgic callback, it's just remembering different incarnations and what happened in a lot of those, just those little references. So that was kind of enjoyable. So maybe that made it feel like there was more to it.
Yeah, that's true. But also this one, I assume they kept the story short just in case people didn't get to progress as far away as through it, so that they would get almost all the story. Whereas the other ones, you got to make sure you get through the story all the way through it, or as far as you can, to get all the story. So I think that was, they probably tried to play to some of the less hardcore players, so that those people dipping in to do just the events would be more likely to get the full story.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did see some people still complain that you had to play at least a certain amount of the episodes in order to get to the event to unlock it. So it's too bad they didn't take that lock off there for the interim so that people could just jump in and play. But then again, I think maybe to their advantage, they want people to play the main game and understand it, and maybe
it's going to help you advance through the event.
Yeah, too, and maybe it would be appealing enough for them to come back rather than just this one-off story they did. So I can see why they did it, but there was a lot of people I saw in social media that was upset with that fact.
Well, and now there'll be done and ready for the next event.
That's right. They won't have to worry about those episodes. Anything else on AI am the Doctor? That's such a clever name. Why wasn't it in the game? It is very clever.
That also kind of gives away.
Well, I suppose that's true. Yeah, maybe that's why they felt they wouldn't do it.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to Traveling the Vortex.
This is Tim Trelaw.
This is David J. Howe.
I'm Peter Purvis.
I am Sadie Miller. This is Lauren Cornelius.
Larry, it's Fraser.
For all things in the Doctor Who collecting world and beyond, the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting for 42 years. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex on the Direction Point Podcast Network.
All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up next on the schedule, we're going to return to our look at Season 6B, Part 4. At least that's what we're calling it internally, with the Second Doctor Adventures 2, Robert James McCrimmon. Ooh. I'm excited.
And presumably...
James Robert McCrimmon.
James Robert. I said Robert James, didn't I?
Presumably, it's going to be how the Doctor and Jamie were reunited for the events of Season 6B, so... Hopefully.
Presumably.
Then
we're going to do another Toymaker Adversary Archive for our 60th anniversary tie-ins. We will look at Companion Chronicle Season 4, number 12, which is Solitaire from Big Finish. We will read the story of the Toymaker, which is a poem in the Now We Are 600 from James Goss and Russell T. Davies. And then Endgame is a comic in Doctor Who magazine. All those feature the Toymaker, and we will be covering them. And then, as Glenn said, we'll have more Doomsday stuff as it gets released, and more ones in future from Big Finish when it comes out. All part of our Let's Celebrate Everything Doctor Who going into the 60th.
Exciting stuff. All right, well, if you want, you can find us at our website, travelingthevortex.com. If you ever... need to go there and get the podcast from there. All of our shows are on there. There's also, if you're a member of our patron, we have our episodes, or not our episodes, but our special audios actually go up to our website as well. If you're a patron, you can unlock them and get them straight from there. If you don't want to, you can go straight to our Patreon link. And if you're supporting us, again, you get special audios from us. Sean's got a another Star Trek coming up here pretty soon. In fact, I think it's releasing later this week, so stand by for that. And of course, it just takes $1 to unlock those materials. We ask for more. We need to keep this going, so we do rely on our listeners, and we especially rely on our patron supporters. So anything that you can help us out with, certainly we would appreciate it. Also, please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to the podcast, and make sure you join us in the conversations all across social media. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on X. It's X now officially.
I'm sorry.
For now. You can find us on X for now. And you can find us on TikTok as well. So look us up. Anything else we need to do before we close this episode? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
You're still giggling. Cheers.
I'm still giggling. Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Direction Point!
direction point.
A Doctor Who podcast network.